Welcome again to Making Comics, the not-so-new podcast about making comics. Today's special guest is Skottie Young.
Incredible.
Welcome, Skottie Young. This multiple Eisner Award-winning amazing artist. And I don't know how to make it to where we know who's like people who are tuning in know who's talking.
They'll know. Yeah. Don't worry about that. Okay. I think everybody knows. Like, I listen to you guys' show. Everybody usually knows. It's pretty cool.
Okay, good.
I'm Skottie, so thank you for that very
Skottie.
nice intro. So I think people will know me now.
Okay, good. I'm Jason. I did a comic called Remind. Daniel?
And I'm Daniel Lieske, doing an online graphic novel called The Wormworld Saga.
So anyway, Daniel, I talked to Skottie a little bit last week for a little bit, and I gotta say, Skottie, you totally jacked me up because
in a good way or bad way, I don't know.
I think it was in a good way. I've been sitting here trying to figure out what I need to focus on and what I shouldn't, and that's why it made the podcast very difficult to spend the time editing. But and so Daniel, we were talking about what exactly was it? Like choosing to eliminate certain things that you're, like you said, Skottie, plant your flag into. Like for me, it's making a how-to book, doing a graphic novel, having a making comics website, doing a podcast, doing a blah 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 blah, on and on,
and a company,
and starting a company, trying to do distribution, trying to do promotion, and eventually you get to where it's just like it's too much weight, and you got to let go of some things. And starting out, it was easy for me to take the role of all these different hats because they were all kind of light.
But they're all theoretical at the beginning.
That's right, yeah. And but after doing it for a while, it's like okay, it does get tiring because instead of coming out into my office to work on my book, I'm coming out and trying to do paperwork, and I'm trying to make sure I respond to emails. I'm trying to return books that got damaged, or I don't know, it's just too much other random stuff, or edit a podcast for 2 hours. So so anyway, I really was like struggling with that and just trying to figure out what, at this stage, especially with a lot of people who heard me announce, I'm going to do this, I'm doing this, what do I really want to cut out? And what will affect my audience, and what will make people happy or sad, and what will really help me in the end to get the most productive stuff done.
Right.
So, anyway, not to just derail the conversation and go all to that, but let me just cut that whole train of thought off and say, so I hear, Skottie, that through your tweets and stuff that you are working on your own book.
I am. It's been an interesting journey trying to get this thing going. For people who don't know, I do monthly book for Marvel, the Wizard of Oz books, and many books before those. Mm-hmm. So I work already on, I produce a 20 to 22 page comic every month already. So on top of that, I'm trying to also put together my own books. And I've really just struggled. The thing I think I envy you guys for the most is that you just started it and it's going. I feel like I have had so many start stops and different concepts and different ideas over the years that it just has frustrated me because I'm capable of, I proved month in, month out that I'm capable of creating a comic, and yet when it comes to my own work that I would own, it seems I'm gun shy with actually starting page 1, panel 1.
Yeah. Do you think it's because for once all the weight will, of if it's good or bad will be on your shoulders, and it's just taking that step?
For me, like, whether this sounds good or bad, I don't know, but I don't really feel that much pressure on what people will think of my work. So that doesn't really ever weigh on me. I love drawing, whether or not I'm great at it. I don't care. I just assume people are going to like it. If I like it, I assume the people that like my stuff will like it. And so that way, it's not that I'm being conceited. It's more me coming to terms with some sort of enjoyment of the work. That way, I don't get lost in that pressure. Is this good enough? Will people like this? How many people will like this? Will the majority like this? So I don't think it's as much whether or not it's too much pressure now that it's all me. It's just, for me, it's that trying to be perfect, like trying to do the amazing, perfect, epic opus on my first time out. And I get lost under the weight of that, where I'm just like, why am I trying to do this such a big thing right out of the gate? And so I'm just, and I'm kind of plagued where I have this idea and I really get into it. And then my problem becomes I start discussing it with too many of my friends. And I read somewhere once, and it holds very true. I've proven it many times that the more you discuss your story ideas as a storyteller, your brain starts to just translate that into you've told your story. And you're less likely to sit down at the table and then tell your story,
That's a very interesting concept, because I also have the feeling that if I take a friend by my side and try to tell him in an objective manner what my story is about, I get into this. I fire up and shoot all my powder at him, and until the people say, "Oh, stop, Daniel! Just make your comic and don't spoil everything to me." And I think that the biggest reason to create a graphic novel, or any story for that matter, is that you have this urge to communicate it. You want to get it out of your head. And well, in fact, if someone sits a whole day in my studio and I would be able to tell him my story, that would feel really great for me. It would just be so ineffective to take a reader, one reader at a time, and tell him the story. That would be very tedious if you want to reach a few thousand people. So we have to fashion everything into a form that can be enjoyed by a lot of people simultaneously.
Sure. Yeah, so that's kind of where I've hit with my book, but I finally have made some headway, and I think what at first I was trying to do, kind of follow in the lead of a couple of you guys who have, charted your progress and shared it, and I think what's best for me is, even though I tried that and people really enjoyed it, I feel like I was doing that. That was releasing some of my excitement. And therefore, I would release my excitement in the blog post about making the comic, and then I would turn around and not go make the comic, because I was like, well, I already kind of made the comic today because I talked about making the comic today. So I've kind of put a lockdown on my mouth a little bit. So I'm making some headway, and hopefully the next couple of months it'll be in a place where I can start actually really sharing true progress on it.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
Now, is this? I know on your one of your sites, you and a friend are making a comic where you go back and forth on the page. Like one person does it one page, another does it the next.
Right.
Is that just an experiment on the side of all this, or? Yeah,
that was just something Scott Morris, who is a story artist at Pixar. And an amazing comic book artist in his own right as well. With if you haven't read his big opus Soulwind, you should try to get your hands on a copy of that and read it. It's probably one of those graphic novels that when I put it down, I was like shaken to my core. Like, I just didn't understand. I mean, I understood what I just read, but I didn't understand that it could have been made by one man in black and white. So if you can find Soulwind by Scott Morris, go out and grab that. So Scott and I had started a blog last year where we were just doing kind of almost fan art, where we just drew some Harry Potter drawings, and he and I would interpret the same characters every day and see the different versions of them. And then we'd sell off the artwork, the originals. And so we had a great time with that and really got to communicate with the fans a lot. And we just got, after about 7 or 8 months of that, we just kind of hit a wall where we're like, oh, all right, we're kind of bored drawing the characters. We've drawn a lot of the characters we want to draw, so we decided to try to tell a story. And then we just came up with a couple rules. We said, we wanted to do an anthropomorphic story. We wanted it to be kind of fantasy. And we wanted to keep the panel counts fairly low. That way, as we, he does one page, then I do the next page, he does the next page. We've got no map, but if we keep the panel count low, neither one of us can overly guide the story in a direction. So it really allows us just to see where it goes. It's nice. There's really no roadmap. We've had to put it on a little bit of a break this past month because me and my family moved and the holidays have hit. So we put it on a break for about a month, but I'm very excited to get back in that. But that's just something on the side. We both said, hey, we've got a lot going on, but when we get a little time, we'll hop in here and do this. So, hopefully over time, he and I will develop that into something and we'll see where it goes. But it's really just a couple of buddies having fun, telling stories.
Yeah. Well, that seems like it's kind of the way to approach it, and just like you were saying with when you explain stuff over and over again, you lose the excitement of it. It's
right.
Like if any way you can keep the excitement of your project, that's like the most important thing. It seems like in making these things. That's really cool. I'm really curious to see how that progresses and what you end up doing with it as far as just self-publishing or, putting it out there as an ebook or approaching a publisher with it. I don't know. It's such a different approach. And I know Sam Keith is doing something similar with it, and a friend of his, with it theirs looks really crazy and kind of just completely off the wall. But, but it's just fun to see, established comic artists experimenting in that way.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. Well,
Jason, as you touched the topic, in fact, in preparation to our talk tonight, I re-listened to the Webcomics Weekly episode where Skottie was on too. I think it was in February or something like that. Mm-hmm. And the big topic there was Skottie, you released one of your books, as I understand it, in a digital format as a PDF download. Uh-huh. And it was pretty amazing on the podcast because if I remember right, on the first day you already reached 3 figures with the sales, and of course what I am now very interested in is how this developed over the month. It's 8 months past now, and how are these digital sales developing? What's your feeling about it?
It's very interesting because it's one of those things now that because it's just PayPal and it sits in the background, I forget to even look sometimes.
All right.
At what it is. Let me, while we're sitting here talking, I will pull it up. It's gone well. I mean, the sales, I think. Trying to see what orders. Let me pull up all orders here. I think it's in, since I started that last, I think January or February, I'm somewhere like close to 2,000 downloads of that. So, yeah, so they just trickle in, there's not, it's not, it doesn't boom. So sometimes you'll have a few days where you don't sell any. Some days I'll sell 2, some days I'll sell 10 out of nowhere. It's always there. I think if, and then I've added another one, with, I've added my, an art book that I put together that I sold out of my print run of my art book. So once I sold out my print run, I added that to the store as well. That's a little bit more expensive, so it's not selling as much, but it's still going strong. So it's nice. It's something that I may do better if I promoted it at all, I think.
Yeah, I understand. But the cool thing is, and that's the impression, or that's the feeling that I get from the Wormwood Saga app, is that you do not really have to care about the exact amount of downloads or purchases, because you don't have to do anything with it.
Yeah.
It's not the way that someone purchases a print or a sketch or a book, and you have to run the whole machine that follows such an order.
Yeah.
You just can sit and see, and even forget about the money coming in.
Yeah,
and that's really interesting.
It's like a little bit of especially with the two books that I put together, because neither one of them would necessarily be considered by babies, where it's like, I wouldn't consider it Remind or Wormworld, where you guys have, this is your passion. I did it with just a quick set of cartooning strips I put together over the course of December while my son was 1 month old and I was off work. So, and thought, well, hey, I'll compile these and put them online and see what happens. So having it kind of sit there in the background and, bring in a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there, then my art book's on there, and that's $9.99. So, I got, $10 coming in every couple of days. And like you said, I don't really worry about it because I'm not having to worry about my stock or my inventory or shipping, or do I need more shipping supplies, or do I need this or that? It sits in the background, and it just brings in a little extra money here and there. So it's, it'd be interesting to see what would happen if I actually put some muscle behind it.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
But I've kind of hit that same place, that Jason and I talked about the other day, where it was like, I get very excited about some of these things. I get very excited about new ways to get product out there. I just get very excited, and I can do the cart before the horse sometimes, and start focusing on the delivery methods and what's the new platform and what's the new frontier. And then I will have to remind myself, you know what? Before you look for the new frontier, you should put your shoes on, before you start walking across that big plain. And by that I mean I should just work on my books, And once I have a stack of books, then I'll worry about trying to remold or build a new way of doing this. But I'm trying to recalibrate my way of thinking and saying, okay, where last year around January I was like, hey, this digital thing's exciting. I read, I think Warren Ellis, I think, talked about it online one day, where he was talking about, he blogged about this 99-cent way of selling comics and how you didn't have to go through this or that. And so I read that and did a little bit of research. And so I got really, really excited. And then I started, I just looked for anything. What do I have to sell? So so again, I got more excited about the delivery method, and then hunted on my hard drive for something to sell, versus, going about it how I should be, which is like what you guys do, which is, create my thing and then go sell it everywhere,
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have to find the time to do these things, because only sitting there and doing your graphic novel will, at least you will have a nice graphic novel then. But on the other hand, nobody will be able to see it if you haven't paved the path on which your graphic novel can reach your audience. And I don't know if it is such a good idea to create a graphic novel in your in your cave, in your creative cave, and when it's completed, you go out and look and see if someone is interested in it. For me, it's a big motivation to get this feedback while I'm working on stuff. Especially if it's a massive project. That's an important factor.
I created Remind in a cave, and it's good and bad, because I did just focus on getting it done, but it wasn't until I put it online that a fire got put under my butt, and I really started getting it done and making progress, and I really started taking it seriously.
Yeah.
But so I think there's good in both, you know.
Well, I think the difference for me is, and I know that this isn't everybody's scenario, but the difference for me is I'm never in a cave. I might be working on my own graphic novel on the side, but every single day, every 30 days, I have a comic book in all the comic book shops, and then every year I have a hardcover that comes out, and then the last year soft cover. Like for 10 years I've worked at Marvel, so for 10 years I've been putting out monthly comics. So for me, I'm not necessarily worried about I'm in a lucky position that what I do for Marvel helps keep me in everybody's aware, in the awareness of the comic fans and the readership. So I'm not too worried about being lost in the cave. And that's where what happens is I'm like, oh, I'm already out there. So I'll start focusing on these methods to sell stuff, which I'm not saying I shouldn't focus on that, but I should focus on doing my own work first. Once the work's done, then I can start figuring out the mechanism on how I want to get out there. And that's just for me. It's not saying I'm giving that advice.
Yeah, but it makes sense. It makes sense, especially if it's not your only project, because that in that way we three differ from each other very much, I would say, because we have very different backgrounds, and it's very interesting to have you here to get some information on what it's like to have this background in comics, actually, which isn't at all the background that Jason and I have. And yeah, of course, that's very interesting, because if you are starting with your own project and don't have a reputation in comics yet, it's a real challenge to get known in the field. So I think that people that don't have the background have to put this extra effort into getting known. So I guess you just have made a lot of progress in this field, and now can actually concentrate on other stuff.
Yeah, and that's, I think, one of the challenges is trying to figure out how to draw comic books for 8 hours and then retool my engine to start drawing comics again right after that. So it's ambitious, and some days it works better than others. But that's the real challenge, is just trying to figure out how to keep that motivation up. And there's days that I wish I was gutsy enough to just say, you know what, I'm going to quit my job and go work on this and roll the dice. But I've worked, again, in the comic book industry for long enough to know that that's a pretty risky dice roll. I mean, I've never been a person to quit any job before another job is well in its way to working out. So
I know exactly what you say.
Yeah. But so what and Jason, I may have asked you these things before, but I've listened to you guys' first 2 episodes, and I really enjoyed them. Or first 3 episodes, because the Nate Simpson was 2 parts, but I really, really enjoyed him. And it's funny because I was thinking about coming on here today, and I was like, I don't know if I think I have less advice or insights than I do questions.
I think having it be a discussion is really, because I'm the same way.
I found that it's weird for me. I found that the older I get and the more that I learn about actually making comics, the less that I actually want to hand out advice, and the more I just want to ask questions and learn more about whatever. But one thing that and this is probably more towards this is geared a little bit more towards Jason and Remind, and I think I've asked you this before, but what's keeping you from maintaining what you're doing now with Remind, as far as starting it as a webcomic and posting and publishing it all online first and keeping it there and still building that audience the way you're building it, but then going with a publisher like an Image or, one of the more independent publishers.
Yeah. It's now I'm going to go into this another week of depression. Okay. No, I'm joking. What for me, it's, since when I started out, I just had no ties with publishers, and the couple experiences I had with publishers really rubbed me the wrong way.
Right.
And I was contacted by someone at Image actually when I first started posting stuff online. It was really early before I even started the current site, Remind Blog, and I don't know how they found it, but they're like, "Are you interested in publishing this through Image?" And I was like, "Yes. Send me over a sample contract." And they're like, "Well, let's not put the cart before the horse. You need to send everything," and blah blah. And they kind of got really like weird. And I was just like, "Well, you guys asked me if I wanted to publish," and so it just put this weird taste in my mouth. And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'll look into Image if I have to,
Right.
But since then, I've talked to a lot of people about it, and I only hear. I mean, I do hear some negative things, but I hear mainly positive things about it. And one of the last times we talked really opened my eyes to it, to some of the benefits of Image. What was it? It was like you were saying, for someone like yourself who has a built-in audience, Image is perfect because you don't have to play distributor. You don't have to,
right.
market your book. I mean, I guess you have to market it yourself.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they take care of a lot of the busy work, and but I'm not sure or convinced just yet if that would work the same for someone who doesn't have an audience.
What's interesting is what you're saying there, though. For me, it almost rings exact opposite of what you just said. In that, I have a built-in audience. Therefore, if I wanted to launch into, which I do every year with my self-published, with my art books, which is usually a print. I do a print run of 1,500 to 2,000 and sell through those without any help of any publisher or anything, because I have that audience, and that's with really no marketing, no promo, no anything.
And so that's why I think you should do your own book and self-publish it, because I don't think you're going to have problems. I mean, if you can completely ignore all the distribution problems and like trying to get a I don't know why I can't say distributor, and don't worry about any of that, and just focus on this is me just thinking off the top of my head.
Sure.
And just focus on like how Hollywood movies do it, where they want to make all their money the first opening weekend. And you say, all right, I'm going to launch a Kickstarter. I'm going to get as many fans to back this and pre-orders to where if I can sell 3,000 books from the get-go, all I got to do is figure out how I can ship out all those books as soon as I make it and sell them all, and then they're all done, and then you've made enough money to live for a year. Or no, I don't know, for a long time. And I think that's the ideal way of doing it.
It does make sense, and like I said, I've seen the benefits to that on the level of the sketchbook. Of the sketchbooks. I haven't done it with an actual graphic novel or a story, but I've done it year after year with sketchbooks. Yeah. And the thing where I've hit is, it makes sense if you're shooting for the level that you're shooting for, which is to do a small print run and sell through that print run, and that be your goal. But that starts to become what happens if, which is what we all want, that thing becomes a big success. And all of a sudden you are put in a position to have to do more than ship out 2,000 books. What if Remind Volume 2 or Remind Volume 3 hits up to 20,000, and you've got to get back on the phone with the printers, and you've got to figure out, and then you're not getting 10 returns, you're getting 25 and 40 and 55 returns, and damaged books that you just sent like 75 books to a store here, and the box was damaged. So it's like the weird things like that are the things that keep me from going that full route, because I see myself as a storyteller more than I see myself as.
Well, this is the way I look at that. If it did blow up and I got 20,000 orders, sure. I would be excited because I could see that as taking a 2 weeks off my job and just inviting a bunch of friends over and churning through this and doing it in a block of time, right? It gets tiring to me when it's spaced out over the course of 6 months or a year, and you're doing 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 orders a week. That's what gets tiring, because it's a continuous little trickle of things.
You can't help that. You won't sell all your books. If we talk about, let's take the number Skottie said, 20,000 copies. You can't put them out in one weekend, or in 1 week, or even in 1 month. Well, if you're heading towards a situation where your books sustain your living, we obviously talk about several books and a lot of customers that have to buy them. So and that's in fact what Skottie's talking about here is the reason why I'm so excited about thinking about the digital future, because going digital means that you don't have to bother with all this stuff anymore. And you don't have to bother about the amount of copies in quote unquote you sell. You don't have to worry about returned items or dealing with shop owners and stuff like that. And that is the real benefit of digital publishing for independent creators, because you can go into the high figures without having all the overhead.
Well, this is, I agree with all that. I think, the digital thing is definitely going to be something that helps kind of erase some of that worry. I think right now, the question that I have, the interesting thing about the way that you're going in it, and again, I hope I'm not coming off as sounding like a naysayer, because I definitely envy and admire what you're doing, and it's been very inspiring. I told you that, I read all your stuff online. I was like, well, this is what I'm doing, and the only thing that really changed my mind is I don't want to work that hard. So I actually do. I do see I do like what you're doing, and I do think that you're doing an awesome job of it. And so I'm really more asking questions of, have you seen this, or to get a true view of how you see it differently. But let's say, right now, your model is, and I'm going to put it simply, your model is self-publish your book. You ship out whatever pre-orders you have. So let's say, what would you, 900 or something like that? Oh, you don't have to give me numbers. I don't want to get too specific.
It was about 700 total for everything I had pre-ordered before I got the books.
All right. So past the 700, this is where I'm saying, past 700, you're no longer, past those first 700 copies, outside of conventions, you're no longer really acting. You're no longer doing anything now different than what Image would do for you, because you're going through Amazon only now. So the fact that you go through Amazon and Amazon takes 55% is exactly what you would be getting taken away. I think the diamond split is 60-40. So instead of 55-45, you would be doing 60-40. So literally past those 700, you are now playing the exact same game that you would be playing with Image, except you're not getting discovered by the people who should be discovering you. Now, obviously, you still have people discovering you on your website. But what I'm saying is that's happening regardless if you're with an Image or not, right? And I'm just using Image. I'm just using Image as an avatar for a publisher. That could be Archaea, it could be IDW, it could be Boom. I'm just using Image as an example, and because Image is, to my knowledge, and I'm not acting like an expert, but to my knowledge, is the only publisher out there who doesn't take any % of anything. It is your book, 100% your book. So with Remind, you sell out 700 copies of your pre-order, and then past that you sell through Amazon and you sell at conventions, right? So, and you've got the burden of doing all the extras, getting it into libraries or doing this or doing that. Now, if you were to flip on the other side and you go through an image, you still get the benefit if you want to do those pre-orders.
Mm-hmm.
You still get a stockpile of the books yourself at home to go and sell hand-to-hand at conventions, exactly what you do now.
Mm-hmm.
Image would still put your book at Amazon, so you still get that thing that you liked, which is you're building up your Amazon reputation for your author, you as an author. So the more books you get, the more reviews stack up underneath your name through Images or through Amazon's whatever, like the mathematical system they have for building up your name.
Yeah.
You kind of get all the things that you're getting, except you just get one bump up from the cachet of being with a publisher that's known in the world that you're becoming a part of.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So that's why I just wondered, like,
and you have very well convinced me in our conversations that it's something I should consider. And right. I think last time I mentioned that, like, maybe when I do a reprint of volume 1 after it sells out and I print the second volume, maybe I'll approach Image to see if they would do the printing of that. Yeah. And because it is very interesting. It's an interesting idea to me. And I think the main thing that's holding me back from someone like a publisher like Image is I had my mind more set on a book publisher like Scholastic or Random House. Because to me, there's just a vast difference in how far that can reach. You know what I'm saying? And so
no, I do. I think there's upsides and there's downsides to that. In that, I've worked in comics for 10 years, and I can't off the top of my head name one comic book that Random House does. That doesn't mean that they don't do a lot, but I don't know any. Yeah. I can't name any.
Well, I mean, they don't do comics. They more or less specialize in graphic novels. That's
what I meant. I mean, there's terminology. That's what I meant.
Yeah, and that's what I want to approach. And like for instance, I mean, we're talking about the just like with the Flight anthology, you're talking about the one thing that actually worked. But like Kazoo's graphic novel, Amulet, that the first printing of that sold like 250,000 copies. Through, and that's, I don't know if those numbers are doable.
They're definitely not translatable. I mean, again, you're talking about a line of comics as Scholastic's graphic novel division, Graphics, has 30 graphic novels past that, and money on the table. They're not touching Kazoo's Amulet. And I know for a fact there's a few of them that are beautiful books that are friends of mine that aren't touching those numbers. That's not to say those aren't goals that we shouldn't all. Yeah, because
exactly. It's the ideal goal.
Mm-hmm. Almost all the same things that you're saying to me, I've said the same thing. Like, I have a pitch here that I have a book. One of my ideas that I started that was going to be it was like, that's it. I'm going to Scholastic. I'm going to take this to Scholastic. Yeah. Because again, I think I probably love your blog and love all this stuff so much that you do, because I see so much of the way that I think as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that I guess I let my laziness get the better of me and go, I'd love to do what Jason's doing, but man, I don't know if I have that much work in me.
I don't know if I have that much work in me.
And then on the other hand, we got Daniel, who's like a monster, who just like he's smarter than both of us, which is just it's just like art and putting it on.
I'm keeping silent over here.
No, I'm saying he's like you come up with this. The thing I envy the most about you is not only like the beautiful artwork you're producing and the kind of story that is right up my alley, but you're doing it in such an innovative way, and you're telling a story in a visual way that nobody else is telling, and you're saying, hey, this is you're breaking all the rules and boundaries, and I like that, and I'm excited to see how you translate that, and what I assume will happen is by the time you finish this, will be right about the time the digital tablet world and wars have evened themselves out, and you'll be right there. You'll be one of those smart guys that
the first
is ready to take advantage of it because you've already been in on the battlefield for so many years.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to sell books out of my garage.
Yeah, and then Jason's now turned to, he bought like a spiral binder machine that he's hand spiral binding all his books. And,
I really my hopes are really big towards the digital realm. However, right at the moment, I'm also very happy about the book deal around the Wormwood Saga, and this is one thing that I just couldn't have done on myself. I would never have decided to, well, let's do an alternative layout for print publishing, and then let's see where can we print the books, and how do we get the books out, and all this stuff I would never have done, and only because a publisher approached me and asked me if we just want to try it, if we want to do it, gave me the opportunity to give this a try. So this is, but this is a completely different animal from what Jason does, because Jason's core product is the print product, and everything he has, well, it's what he has to get out, and with all the work that's caused by that. And for one thing, Jason is trying is publishing his work in the United States, and I think where it really ends, what you really can't do on yourself is trying to publish stuff worldwide or in foreign countries. On your own, sitting in your garage and now, sending out packages to Singapore or whatever.
I do have a couple publishers, foreign publishers that are interested. So
right.
I am open to that. I guess selling the rights to.
Maybe you'll like the taste of that when when a publisher takes care of your book.
Yeah, that's true. It might change my mind. Go ahead, Scott.
Is it more of an ideal that you, is that the, like, what is, I guess that was the most rambling put together question I think I've ever asked.
I won't edit it out either.
When you kind of put your flag in the sand of saying, okay, I am self-publishing, is it something that you're doing from an idealistic standpoint, or do you truly, or is it something that you are doing because of it's more, you think it's a more financial gain? What's the core reason behind like sticking that flag in that sand?
It's a little of both. I mean, I felt going into this, since I had no name in the industry, if I found a publisher, I would kind of get pushed around and pushed into a mold that already existed, which I didn't feel like was the right mold. So in that sense, it is kind of idealistic. Like idealistically, I want this book to be like this, hardbound with, stand out on the shelf, something you could put on your coffee table, more of an art book, stuff like that, So that was the ideal side. And then also, just looking into a lot of self-publishing, other people who've done it, and reading that there is a little bit more of a financial gain. And then especially when I got a grant and Kickstarter funding, which paid for everything. And remember that it's paid for absolutely everything from even remodeling my garage to be my studio, to buying a new computer, to conventions, to all, like paying for a PR person, which is a lot of money. A lot of money.
You have a PR person?
Yeah, I have a PR person who's been really helping me get a lot of like high-end exposure to like libraries and different publications. But anyway, we'll see how that works as time goes on. So I forget kind of my train of thought here, but
no, you answered it pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and what I have to say, in fact, when we talked to Nate, I was a bit astonished by what he told about Image, and the question really is, after what Skottie has said, if that would be true, that Image Comics would be, well, just a distribution service who doesn't take any cut. That sounds a bit too good for me. So, well, definitely they will take a cut of profits and
no, this is. I mean, I know the exact deal with them. I mean, it's when you on this, they take a flat fee up front. There's a flat fee that's guaranteed to them. It's let's say $2,500,
and you pay that out of your pocket.
Yeah, but it can come out of the back end. So $2,500 is their fee. That's going to cover, because an ad in previews is whatever, $1,500, whatever. Mm-hmm. That flat fee covers the fees that go into the printing, the clerical, whatever, and your ad in previews. So that's the fee that comes out.
Okay. Then
there is your printing costs. Your whatever printing costs that you have for your issues, which obviously the comic book industry is based on pre-orders. So you're only going to order so many over what is pre-ordered of your book anyway. So it's not like you're not doing what you have to do now, which is go in and pick an arbitrary number. I'm going to print 3,000. Hopefully I'll sell through them. Mm-hmm. This is, you figure out 1,500 people ordered Remind. I'm going to print 3,000. So once it catches on, we have a reprint. We'll go into a second printing if needed. So that, and then you have your printing. That's the fee that you have let's say it's $2,500 taken out. Then you have your printing costs that gets taken out. Then you have the same thing that you got going on with Amazon, which is the diamond fee that gets taken out of that. So those are the things that gets taken out of your single issues. That's it. That Image is not a publisher that owns any rights. They don't have any rights to anything on anything like that. Now, I do believe when the books get collected into the collective versions, they may take like a very small cut at that point. But when I'm talking like a small cut. Okay. We're not talking about like, it's not like a book publisher, which is, they have it and they're paying you royalties. It's not like that. The books are yours. The money is yours. Image is not a publisher like Marvel is a publisher, and they're the only one out there that functions like that. Like everybody else, IDW, Archaea, all the other ones are still independent publishers, but they still they still act a little bit more in a publishing way where they share in rights and they share in things like that. So when you make movie deals, they get a back end of that. They get this. Yeah. When you make movie deals at Image, you're done. That's it. There's no touching any of that ever. So Image literally is the closest thing that you're going to get to doing what you're doing right now, which is, but the downside is instead of spending like a big, huge chunk of money, like you just said, on a PR person, the Image eye in the corner just does that for you, because libraries already know that brand. Bookstores already know that brand.
But if you were able to spend money on a PR person, I think it would just add to that amazingly. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, like the more I talk to people about it, especially you, Skottie.
And this is coming from listen, I've got no horse in this race either, because I've never had any books published through Image. Yeah.
You don't get a cut out of it.
No. So I'm not trying to sell you on. I'm not trying to sell you on going there. I have some great friends that all have books through there. I've had some great friends who have made their living and raised their family off working at Image. I've also had friends that have had to move out of their houses living, but that's not because of the company. That's just because of the product and the industry and whatever. So I just wanted to put it out there that I'm not some evangelical for Image Comics, because I've never done it myself.
It makes sense. I guess the thing that I'm wondering about is how all this would work if I still do print in China and there's that 3-month delay on getting the books. Because I don't know how that works with previews. If for graphic novels, if there's a longer period of time that you have to order before they come out, or if it's the same time frame.
Well, there's also different deals. When you talk about publishers have different deals with printers, and because they'll print so many, I'm sure Image prints through a number of printers, as does every other comic book company. But because they print through these printers and they print in such bulk and they print so many titles, sometimes you get better deals. You'll get better shipping rates. You get better shipping speed. that stuff is all. That stuff can all change depending on what's going on, and that's just a case by case basis. But that's the stuff like that's the least of, I think, of anybody's concern. It won't ever really be a problem for you.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's definitely on the table, and I think when I'm getting close to launching a Kickstarter for Volume 2, I will probably approach Image. Maybe after I've closed the Kickstarter for 2, so I can say, look, I have this much fan support and stuff like that.
I think more so than not, I think I asked the questions because the company could be any company. I guess for me, it's wondering the trade-off. And I think Daniel made a good point in saying, teaming with a publisher is helping him figure out how to translate what he's doing into that form, which in return allows him to get back on the Cintiq and continue being a storyteller.
A lot of it for me is I like to be hands-on and do something at least once so I can fully understand the machine that's involved. It's like working in commercials and animation and stuff. It's like I have had experience with almost every single position down the line of how to make a complete hand-drawn animation from start to finish, and it's because of that it's that kind of desire to have the knowledge of all these different pieces that make it work. And I think that's kind of the same approach I'm doing when I decided to publish and self-publish. It's like I want to have my hands in all these things so I can figure out what I don't want to do next time. Sure. And so I can know when someone's screwing up when I've given them a job. When I have a publisher and I go, wait a minute, that's not what happened. Why are you doing this to me? I guess that's kind of a lot of the reason as well. I don't know if I see myself trying to control every single position for all of eternity, but it's like this time around I really wanted to do it.
Yeah, I mean, if and I think that's what that answers it pretty good, because if that's the fun part of it for you, then that's fulfilling. And I think that's the thing that deterred me was I think the ideals of the idealistic side of self-publishing is ripe for me. I love it. I think I like all that. It's because I don't want to be involved in that. I was like, you know what? I would love to self-publish. If I could just have somebody come over and do it all for me. That's kind of where my head is,
I can relate to that now.
Well, I guess it's just one of these things you have to do once to see it. Yeah. And then you get bored by it if it occupies too much of your future time.
Yeah. And that's what it is. Yeah, I think that's definitely where I think for me it's when I want to grow. Every time I publish my sketchbooks, I get real excited. Right, I got a nice hardcover sketchbook, and it came out great, and I've got stacks of boxes at my house, and it's fantastic. And then my wheels start turning. All right, how next time could I sell 4,000 of these, and then 6,000? And how could I get these out more? And then all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? I've spent 5 days online researching this, and that, when I probably could have been halfway to another book already,
Well, I mean, the thing about that, though, I get excited in that same way, and I think if in my ideal mind, I'm thinking if I can keep releasing a book every year, and every time I do a Kickstarter, because I love Kickstarter, and I plan on doing that with everything I can from now on, because it's so good. For raising the funds and stuff. If every time I do a Kickstarter, the amount of the audience grows and the number of books I sell from the get-go grows, then it's going to be a real challenge to let go of that, because if you can get to where you can have 20,000 orders.
Well, since some publishers are starting to use Kickstarter to finance the first print runs of their products, you might not have to let go of it. But I don't think that this practice will be kept in the future, because I think people see stuff like that when a regular publishing house is using Kickstarter, which is just not the intention of a site like Kickstarter. So
so maybe they'll shut me down after I'm announce my catalog of books.
Yeah, because you're effectively a publisher.
Yeah, exactly. I'm no longer an artist just trying to make something happen once.
Now, Daniel, with the fact that you have, like, I take it someone else is helping you develop your app, right?
Yeah.
And then
it's a professional app development studio that I'm working with.
And then you are working with a publisher as well.
Yeah, for the book version. Yeah, and it's I'd like to come back to this point, to the initial question, to find out what you can do yourself and what stuff to give into other hands. Mm-hmm. And for me, the whole year up to now was a huge experience of a lot of stuff that I did myself, and of which I now have to decide what do I want to do in the future. Mm-hmm. On myself, and for what stuff do I want to find other people to do it. And this goes down just right to the very core of what I'm doing. Like I have several translations of the Wormwood Saga pending right at the moment. Since several months they are pending, and I just don't find the time to edit them. Mm. And one of the first things I would love to give into other hands would be to just do the hard layout work on all these translations. And this is a long list of stuff. I would never have tried to do an app on my own to get into programming and stuff like that and try to do it my own. It was, in fact, my first thought to do it on my own. I researched if you could, for example, use a tool like Flash or some other Adobe tool and just to publish an app. But I found out quite quickly that this is not how it works. Not for an app that should have special features and a lot of technical stuff in it. You just have to have it done by someone who knows how to do it. And the same with the book. There's so much stuff involved in making a book and printing a book and distributing a book, and I would never have done this on my own. So on the other hand, what I really enjoy to do is all the marketing and PR stuff on the internet. I love to experiment with that. Yeah, and I don't see that going into other hands anytime soon. But that's together with the work on the graphic novel itself, it's already a lot of stuff. Yeah, keeping a blog, posting to Facebook, to Twitter, and painting a graphic novel every day. You really have to. You really have to take care what you load on your shoulders, and doing a podcast besides everything is for me it was an element I really thought about it, if I should do it, if I should take this additional responsibility, so to say. Yeah. And I can say I could only do it because I never supposed to Jason that I'll do the editing on it.
That's always the best way. When I was on one podcast for a year, and all I had to do was show up every Friday night and hang out with friends and record. And then after I left that, Casey and I started a podcast, and we lasted 24 episodes because that I was editing, and I was like, nope, not for me.
So I'm announcing this is our official last episode.
Skottie Young has officially canceled making comics.
Are you still glad you're doing it, Daniel?
Yeah. I'll keep doing it for as long as you keep doing it, Jason. No problem at all. We're just getting started here.
Good.
No, I think both. I mean, I really admire. For me as an artist who grew up in the Image era of comics, where it was basically all creator-owned comics, I thought for sure that's what I would do when I got into comics, and it turns out I've done nothing even close. I've done almost all my comic book work for Marvel Comics. Mm-hmm. But for me, I don't regret that at all. But I admire what you guys are doing for really just crafting your ideas, putting them out, bringing them to the world, and just building up your own island there. I just think it's so cool, and something that hopefully what I'm trying to do on the side of working at Marvel, which I have a blast doing, and they've treated me so well over the years, and given me a chance to get better at this and build a fan base and all those things. But man, every time I read another thing about you guys, I just I get so envious. It's so awesome.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's nice to hear on the one side. On the other side, it's also, well, what I find really ironic is that, well, in fact, everyone gets to the point where he wants to do his own graphic novel, no matter what he's doing. If he's doing a cool job at Dreamworks, or a cool job in the gaming industry, or even a cool job in comics. Yeah. Everyone is trying to do his own graphic novel or his own story, and this seems to be, well, the very core that a lot of people just have the urge to create their very own world, and I find it as, because it's not really about the act of creating a comic, of sitting there and drawing and painting and maybe writing, because if that was all about it, you, Skottie, would be in heaven and wouldn't have to care about your own projects.
Oh yeah, no.
Mm-hmm. No, so it's more to that. It's really, it is a feeling that that there's an own vision that one wants to carry out there, and it's really interesting to see all the different ways and path that leads to this, that people take to accomplish that, and that people take to arrive there in the first point. I needed 10 years in computer games before I really reached the point where the urge to create my own thing was so big that I actually quit my job without having a new job in front of me. And this is really something that I guess, well, that's the one thing that unites all the people that are here on the podcast, that were here in the podcast, and that will be in the podcast in the future, I guess.
Now, Skottie, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I'm 22.
22. Oh, so you're so young. Oh, man.
I'm 33.
Oh,
wow.
Okay. The mid,
so you're still
the mid-30s are the magic age, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's for me. If you guys ever read The Outliers?
No, I've heard about that by several people though. Yeah, The Outliers is just a kind of an examination of successful people and kind of the things in our lives that go into creating that and creating successful people. And one of the things, and I'm sure you've heard it repeated a million times, and you will so forever, is it takes about 10,000 hours to master something. And by master, I will say just get good at, but about 10,000 hours to really just kind of master your craft to the degree that you want. And that usually takes, they kind of even break it down. Well, if you do this many hours a day and blah, 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 that takes about 10 years. It takes about 10 years to put in about 10,000 hours of whatever you're doing. And if you guys mentioned on the last podcast with Nate, and you talked about how, again, you just mentioned the mid-30s. And if you think about it, by the time we're old enough to go out and start actually honing in our skills, we're all hitting about that 10,000 hour mark right now. Depending, give or take when we started, we've gotten better at whatever we're doing. We're not masters, but we've gotten better. We have a little bit of understanding. We have some maturity. We have, we think before we move ahead. Most of the time. Sometimes.
Yeah. So I think you probably do see that a lot of right around there in your mid-30s, where you still have some of that youthful energy to kind of go out and conquer something, but you're not just so full of whimsy that you'll go out and make all the mistakes. So hopefully for me, I mean, you guys are on your path. You guys are on the way there with building what you're doing, and hopefully by this time next year, I'll be there with you. But hopefully, like for me, hopefully, yeah. So yeah, we'll see. But
well, let me know what I can do to help, because I want to see what you can do when you do your own project.
Well, it's I'm definitely excited.
Yeah.
You know what? One thing that I also for a long time thought would be necessary in order to start your own project with your own big vision was an ugly accident in your youth or something like that. Because when I read about several people like George Lucas, for example, and their success stories, what I discovered was that in nearly every biography of these people, they had an accident, a car accident or something like that, something that brought them to the brink of death in their young years. And I thought, oh man, Daniel, you don't really nearly died in your past. Well, I had this explosion thing when I played around with black powder in my teen years, but that just burnt my face and that didn't nearly kill me. So what I thought for a long time was, you have to get the taste of death in your mouth in order to be courageous enough to do your own stuff. And I'm very happy to have found out that this isn't necessary at all.
I thought you were going to say.
I've noticed that trend in different things. Like I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts, and it's very much. Not saying that some of them aren't truly depressed, but it's almost like they won't legitimately give you your stand-up comedian license unless you admit that you are like clinically depressed to the degree of suicidal. You know, like you can't possibly say anything funny unless you have a gun in your mouth 90% of the day. And I think at some point that's true, and then at some point it crosses a line into like, okay, you all don't need such a dramatic story. You could just be funny, you know? You don't have to have the barrel of a shotgun in your mouth with your toe on the trigger. You could just be funny. It's okay.
But that's Well, but I guess it helps. I guess it helps to. No, not the barrel thing. Just of course, what is true is that if you have experienced once that your life could be over any time, then you may have a different understanding about wasting your time on the planet. Maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
I think. It's. I think it's exciting times. I think you hear a lot of doom and gloom about comic books and industry and sales numbers and where are we and this and that. But I think that the more that I look around online and in stores and see the different, not only just the different styles and talent that's out there, which is amazing, but just I don't know. I'm so hopeful right now. I'm so excited about comics and storytelling and the idea that I can. The idea that, to be in the industry as long as I've been and working at Marvel for all these years, but the fact that I can still like stumble upon something like Remind and the Wormworld saga within the same year and think and like I just discovered that that's awesome to me. These things that aren't being like promoted in big ways by Diamond or whatever method the comic books say you have to go through. That's intriguing to me, and it's exciting for me, and I'm very excited to see where we'll be in 5 years and 10 years, and what kind of ways we'll all be able to put our stories out in the world. So I don't know, it's exciting times right now, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah,
well,
very exciting.
We're getting we're over an hour now. So maybe we should get ready to wrap it up. But Skottie, I wanted you to talk about your 500 plus page book thoughts that you mentioned last time we talked.
This is by no means.
I just thought it was real cool, so I just want people to hear it.
Okay, there is no science to back up what I'm about ready to say, and I think people need before people start like giving me too much credit for knowing everything or whatever. I just need to say I just guess a lot of stuff, and like I said, I like to question a lot of things. So it's never.
It's perfect.
But this my 500-page thing is my thing is I feel like there's almost one surefire way to get your book to sell a lot of copies, and it is to have over 500 pages. I almost don't think. I know this sounds crazy, right? But I almost don't know if the concept matters that much. It does. I understand that it does, but just stay with me in this crazy theory. If I look at my shelf, I can almost pull out any book that is from any publisher that is just a big, chunky, fat book. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That book has done pretty well. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I've read Blankets, right? I like Blankets. I think it's a great book.
Yeah, you see that everywhere.
You see that, but Blankets doesn't seem like the kind of book that should be as on many shelves as it is.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think now again, that's not taking anything away from it because I love that book.
Mm-hmm. But it just feels like an indie book that you would just barely
seems like
find.
a straight up indie book. You know, kind of like a bio comic about just a kid growing up in the Midwest. There should by the means of which we sell comic books, that should not be a comic that's on every single shelf that's out there. But it is on every was on every Border shelf, every Barnes & Noble shelf, every comic book shelf. It's really out there because it's so big. It's this big book. Of course, Bone is out there. What other ones? I have a couple other ones that I brought up that are escaping me now. But it seems like every time somebody puts out, like an acquaintance of mine, Kagan McLeod, put out Infinite Kung Fu. He put out, now that's a book that's been around for, I think I discovered that about 10 or 11 years ago when he was kind of putting them out on his own as single issues. And it's just kind of a book that if you go to conventions and you're kind of in the art world, you'll know it. But it never really was like a big mainstream phenomenon. And then all of a sudden, Top Shelf put out a collective version of it, and everybody talks about it, like Infinite Kung Fu, right? So I'm like, I think he's falling with it, and I think it's like 498 pages or something like that. It's crazy, but it's falling with it, and I'm like, I think it's just like what, and the theory really comes from the fact that it looks impressive. And that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
No, I'm not, like I said, there's no science to back this up. And I'm not just being like wacky to be wacky. It's no different than saying put a really pretty hardcover on a shelf. Even if I put a really pretty package on that shelf, the chances of you caring whether or not the insides of it are fantastic or not go down a little bit, because I'm going to sell you with how pretty the outside is, how the leather bound hardcover, this and that, and that's really what I'm talking about. I think if you put out a giant book, you are kind of saying like, look at this, right? Like, look at this. This is an accomplishment. This is at another level that you haven't seen, and I don't know. I think it's a theory. I think somebody should write a book on it.
Well, that is
maybe you should a 500-page book on it.
Listen, have you not been here? I'm very lazy. I don't get down for this extra work thing. Right.
The question is, how does this series relate to apps? Is it in megabytes then?
You know what?
Good question.
I don't know if it could handle. Because there's no way to look at that app and know that it's a big fat app.
You could do it in like feet, scrolling
good
feet.
Question.
Yeah, I don't know how. Now you have broken the science.
Yeah, of course.
How thick
the
will your book?
Times,
how thick will your book?
Stuff.
How thick will your book be, Daniel, when it's all collected? Do you think?
Oh boy, I guess right at the moment, what we are going to try is to collect 2 chapters in a book, and these will sum up to something between 50 or 60 pages.
Okay.
And with some editorial content, we will have, I think, 80 pages per book. So let me do a little calculation here. If I loosely count 16 to 18, maybe 20 chapters, that will make, well, let's say 8 to 10 books. And if we take 8 books at 60, that's 40. Yeah, it's 480 pages.
Oh, you got to squeeze a couple more in there.
Yeah, I will add another chapter.
That's impressive.
Because
impressive.
You got 480 pages of story, and you'll have about. You could throw in 50.
20 pages of editorial. Yeah.
You'll have 60 pages of back matter. So you'll definitely meet the 500 page. You're golden.
Oh boy,
dude. You're gonna be so rich and famous. It's not even.
That's
funny.
gret. Oh, that's very cool. Cool.
I like how I just went. Hey,
I'm so grateful for this.
I've
made it.
Well,
that's great.
I love it. I love that theory.
Yeah, but it's something about this. It has to look impressive. I'm looking forward to find out how this Habibi graphic novel will do. It's also very big. I saw it in several bookstores already, and it also looks very impressive. So this may be one of these big tomes that sell very well. Yeah, according to Skottie's theory.
He's probably going to sue me because he already probably named this theory, and I'm claiming it to be my own.
We'll just call it the theory.
Yeah,
the theory. Yeah,
whoever's theory it is, we don't know.
Yeah,
very cool. Well, thank you, Skottie, for coming on the show. This has been super fun. And
thanks for having me. I hope I didn't babble on too much.
No. You did great.
I feel it was a great conversation.
Yeah,
and exactly the style that we are aiming for here on the podcast. I think.
Yeah,
good. I'm glad. I thank you guys because you guys. I feel like you guys answered more questions that I had. So it was good.
Good. Well, and if you want to come back on the show at a later date, let us know, and I'm sure we can work it out.
I will if you guys are still around.
Okay.
We try.
I will if I can make it in the cutoff before you guys quit.
I like how honest it is. Great. And another special thank you to Skottie Young for joining us in our conversation. Luckily for everyone, I have the next episode already recorded, so it is definitely going to happen. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't plan on quitting this anytime soon. I absolutely love talking to everybody, but yeah, that editing thing is a big pain. Anyway, my next guests are the artist and writer team up who do the awesome webcomic called Power Nap. You can go check it out in advance, powernapcomic.com. This episode of Making Comics was brought to you by absolutely no one, because I don't have any sponsors, so, well, I guess that's how it goes. But one thing you can do to help, if you go to audible.com and make a search for Unnatural Talent, my audiobook, Unnatural Talent by Jason Brubaker, then you can help me by getting 5 hours of content like this, and all packaged together in a nice little structure. And even better yet, if you're new to Audible, and Unnatural Talent is your first purchase on there after you've signed up, then they send me what they call a bounty payment. So it's kind of a win-win. You get an audiobook for not very much money, and they send me money. So you're kind of forcing Audible to send me money, I guess. I guess that's all right. Hey, it was their idea, so if they didn't want me to know about it, they wouldn't have told me. So yeah. If you want to get the audiobook and you've never heard of Audible, then go for it. I would love it. It would really help. And all this kind of stuff really helps pay my bills, because I'm doing this full time now, and and I'll be able to share about this in maybe my revised edition of Unnatural Talent someday when I do that. Who knows when that will be? All right. Thanks for listening. Bye.